going on, guys? Welcome back to the video. Today we're here to talk about the kickoff of the new DC Studios universe, and that is, of course, Superman. We're going to go full spoilers with this one, so if you yet to see the film, come back and see us after you watched it. You have been warned. I'm going to go full spoilers with this, go over my overall thoughts, and I'm very, very excited to talk about this film. And I'm going to go ahead and right off rip and say, guys, I love this film. As someone who loves Henry Cavill and the Snyderverse and all that, I gotta say, James Gunn really outdid himself with this one, and David Corenswet really, surprised me. I knew from the get-go he was going to be a completely different iteration and take on Superman than Henry Cavill. Henry Cavill is more of a Christ-like figure and more dark and more, more serious tone. This one was like, Silver Age comics. This was more goofy. This is more lighthearted. And I think David Corenswet was the perfect choice for this iteration of Superman and for, James Gunn overall universe. And like I said, it was just a big surprise, and I have not left the theater with such a big smile in the longest time. Thunderbolts was probably the closest thing to it. That was a really good film, but for the most part, I just felt pure joy walking out of that film. And I didn't have any expectations, and maybe that's the key. Maybe that's the success to, to really enjoy the overall theater experience, is to not set the expectations too high, because I know with the Marvel films, we tend to do that. But I had a really, really nice time. First and foremost, let's just talk about David Corenswet as Superman. Like I said earlier, I think he was the perfect Superman for this universe. I love that he was just so kind-hearted and, he just loved everybody. And I think he is the perfect Superman that we need for this day and age, where he just loves everybody for the sake of everybody, for just the sake of humankind and all life. Like, he saves a squirrel at one point, like in the middle of fighting a giant kaiju, he makes sure he takes time to save this little bitty squirrel. And then also, while he was fighting the kaiju, he was getting mad at the Justice Gang for, killing the kaiju, because he wanted to take it to a safe place so they could study it so he could live in harmony or whatever. He didn't want to kill it because he thinks all life is precious. I love that about this Superman. And like I said, I think he is the perfect representation of Superman that we need for this day and age, where, the world's in a weird spot. There's a lot of division, and we just need that symbol and that figure that shows, hey, all life is precious and everything matters, and everybody's beautiful. And I just think that I just love that. I think David Corenswet did a fantastic job. I'm excited to see what is next in the future with him. I know James Gunn said that we'll probably see him in the next future. I'm assuming Supergirl. That's honestly the one makes the most sense, or we'll see him in Peacemaker, but I'm leaning more towards Supergirl. I'm very, very excited to see what the future of David Corenswet, Superman, is. I think he did a phenomenal job. As much as I love Henry Cavill, that is still my Superman to this day. You gotta give flowers to flowers due. He did a fantastic job as Superman, and I think he deserves a lot of credit. I'm still iffy on the suit. I'll be that honest. I like the trunks. I don't know if I dig the trunks in live action. Personally, that's just me. I know a lot of hardcore comic lovers, really want the trunks in live action. For me, I don't know. But the suit aside, it does grow on you. But the suit aside, I think him as a overall portrayal, I think he did a fantastic job. And then, of course, he also played Ultraman. Ultraman, I really thought was going to be Henry Cavill. I thought that would have been the greatest little, jab at everything, or, just like nod to the Snyderverse. I don't know. I just thought that would have been perfect, and that would have been great. And also in the trailers, it kind of looked like, from like a glimpse, they really tricked us. They made it. They did an edit to where you couldn't even tell it was David Corenswet. I really thought it was me, Henry Cavill. I thought that would have been awesome if they did that. But nonetheless, David did a great job portraying two characters, and like I said, I think it's well deserved. Let's let the man cook and see what he can do with the rest of the DC universe. And of course, we have Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor, and oh my God, this guy was incredible. I knew from the get-go that he was gonna be great. He was a great beast. He was great in the menu. Everything I've seen him in, and I recently met him at MegaCon this past year. Phenomenal, sweet guy. Everything he's in, he does fantastic, and he really made Lex Luthor just pure evil. He was just evil for the sake of being evil, and he was pulling all the strings, making everybody turn on Superman, and he truly acted like Lex Luthor. And I think that I wish we would have got more. I wish we would have got a little more backstory, but that's good storytelling right there. The fact that I wanted more is proof that Nicholas Hoult did a fantastic job. I'm excited to see him in the future, and I don't know where they're gonna go. At the end of this movie, he gets arrested. I'm kind of curious to see where he's gonna go from there. But Nicholas Hoult, chef's kiss. Lex Luthor was awesome. And then of course we got Lois Lane, Rachel. I know her name's Rachel. I'm really bad with last name. She was fantastic. Again, just like with Lex Luthor, I wish we could have got more screen time with her, but the chemistry between the two was fantastic. And one of my favorite scenes in the entire movie was when they are Superman's in his suit, just sitting in the living room, and they're just talking, and then you see the Justice Gang outside fighting this intergalactic squid alien thing, and Superman's just like, oh, they got it, they can handle it, and you just see them fighting it, and Lois and them are just talking, and she's continuously looking like, are you gonna do something about that? He's like, no, they got it, and you just see them going at it, fighting this giant creature in the middle of Metropolis, and Superman's just like, he needs to vent. He's like, they can handle it. There's just something so subtle and comedic about that scene. I loved it. I thought that was great. That had me like laughing in the theater. And that's the kind of comedy I like. I know a lot of people will worry that this movie's gonna be too James Gunn, because we all know how James Gunn's comedy is. But little subtle comedy bits like that are what really make it. But Lois Lane, she was the perfect Lois Lane in this film. And I just love the chemistry. And again, I'm gonna keep saying it. I'm excited to see the future. I'm excited to see what else she can do. And then, of course, we got Guy Gardner, Green Lantern, played by Nathan Fillion, who was absolutely hilarious. We did not get as much screen time again as I would like. Again, I know this was a Superman movie, and if they took too much time with all the other characters, it wouldn't feel like a Superman movie. It would feel more like a Justice League or something. But the little bit of screen time we got at him, he was hilarious. And I love that he can be a comedic joke, but then also get serious when he needs to be. Like when the whole message for Jor-El, who was played by Bradley Cooper, by the way, which that took me for left field. I did not expect to see Bradley Cooper playing the father of Superman. But after the message comes out that Superman is pretty much there to rule the world, and they just pretty much belittle mankind and humanity, and that all that goes to now the world turns on Superman. That whole like twist at the end, because all growing up that message got kind of messed up when Superman was coming into orbit, when he was first coming to Earth, and so he only saw the first half of that growing up. And it was just him telling him that he's met there to do good and, be Superman, how we know. But then turns out there's the other half of that message that he never heard of. And Lex Luthor's the one that made that happen, where it was basically an Invincible situation. If you watch Amazon Prime Invincible, it was pretty much just like that. And so the world briefly turns on him, and Guy Gardner gets in his face. And it's like, if that message is true, you are the exact type of alien I'm here to protect this world from, and gets in his face, and he calls him Big Blue. And it's just like, he can get serious when he wants to, and I like that. But he's very, very comedic and just really funny. I think the Green Lantern effects was fantastic, especially towards the end when it comes to the war, and he's going to go, because Superman's dealing with Ultraman, and there's a whole war going on, and so the Justice Gang shows up, and like I said, the effects of Green Lantern was awesome. I'm hoping he pops up in the Lantern series that's coming up. I know he's briefly going to be in Peacemaker based off the trailers, but I'm hoping to see more of him and see his banter with the other Lanterns. And of course, we get to Hawkgirl, who's played by Isabel Merced. If I'm pronouncing that right, please forgive me if I'm not. We didn't get a lot of screen time with her. There was honestly, what you see in the trailer for the most part is what you get with her. There's something there. I think she can be a really great Hawkgirl. We just didn't get to see much of it. She was just kind of, sassy the little part she was on, and then at the end she, kind of tones that down to go to help fight a war. But like I said, there wasn't much for her to, there wasn't much Hawkgirl as I thought there was going to be. But, there's potential there, and I think that she's going to be great. I loved her in The Last of Us. She's really killing it. She's really great in Alien Romulus, so I'm excited to see where she goes in this role, but we just didn't get a lot of her. But who we did get a lot of is, of course, Mr. Terrific, who stole the show every time he was on scene. He was hilarious. His dry humor, it's not even dry humor, he's just so serious, and it's funny. In that scene with Lois, when he has her safe inside that, force field while he's kicking ass and his droids are just destroying things, like, he is just hilarious. He stole the show. I cannot wait to see Mr. Terrific, more of him. And honestly, I did not expect that. I thought he'd probably be one of my least favorite, because I honestly don't know much about the character, to be honest. But like, based off this movie, he was hilarious, and I loved him, and I cannot wait to see more of him. And then, of course, we got Millie Alcock towards the end, who is going to play our new Supergirl. That was a nice little tease we got at the end, who ends up being the true owner of Krypto, which, when it gets to that scene, it all makes sense to why, Krypto was her dog. And she's just a party animal. She likes to go to other galaxies and get drunk because their suns are red, and they can't get drunk by our sun because it's a yellow sun or whatever. So she likes to go off to other galaxies to get drunk, and she's a big party animal. And we got her for like 10 seconds at the very end. It's like a little clip, and I loved it. I'm excited to see her movie. That's the next one that's coming out next. I think she's going to kill it. Again, I think that's where we're going to see Superman again. And of course, that's where we're getting Jason Momoa's Lobo. I cannot wait for that movie. And then, of course, we got Rick Flag-Serra, who is played by Frank Grillo, who was in the MCU, who's also part of Creature Commando, who was in the animated series, so that's his character, just the animated form. He wasn't in the movie as much as I would like either, but I think they're kind of they're cooking something up with him. I think he's going to be more active in Peacemaker, considering Peacemaker is the one that killed his son in the Suicide Squad. But I think that character is really cool. I'm excited to see where they go with him. And then, of course, like I mentioned, Jor-El was Bradley Cooper. That completely took me by surprise. I did not expect that. That was really cool. And then we got Metamorpho, played by Anthony Karanga. I forget. I know Anthony. I'm sorry. I'm really bad with names. Who was also hilarious, too. And it was actually very sad at first. He was trapped in this cage, and they were tormenting him, like, threatening to kill his baby. And he had to create a kryptonite to keep Superman at bay inside the prison, and it was just pretty much trying to kill Superman. And if he let Superman go, they would kill his baby. But they come up with a plan to save the baby child, and that whole scene is awesome, where Superman almost gets thrown into a black hole, and the whole time he's just holding up, just keeping this baby safe. He's going down the river that leads into the black hole, because they're in this pocket dimension that Luthor created, where pretty much everybody he deems a prisoner has to go. It's like it's crazy. It's the visuals of this movie were awesome. Hats off to James Gunn and the team behind this film. They did a great job with the visuals. But Metamorpho, he was hilarious. He ends up joining the team at the very end, and Guy Gardner was like, maybe we'll talk about it later. But then the second he says, Justice Gang's a cool name, he's like, you're in, because the rest of the team was like, no, that's definitely not our name. That was a whole gag going throughout the movie. So that was funny. And then, of course, the one that kind of caught me the most surprised was Jimmy Olsen. I think that his character, played by Skylar Gizando, his name is Skylar. But Jimmy Olsen was hilarious. It was like a little side plot going on, where he was kind of messing around with Lex Luthor's girlfriend and getting information from her. And he doesn't really like her, but she's obsessed with him, but she's really too hot for him. So the whole thing's just funny. It's hilarious. I'm excited to see more of him. And I just think he was hilarious. But the overall cast themselves was fantastic. This movie is a great kickoff and start to the DCU universe, the new one. So hats off to you, James Gunn. You made an incredible film. I'm excited to see where this leads. In a day and age where it feels like comic book movies are kind of taking a downhill. It was nice to get something refreshing like this. And I'm hearing that there's a lot of division in this movie, between the fan base, but the Rotten Tomato scores seems to tell otherwise. But there's a lot of division here, and whatever noise is going out there, I had fun. Like I said, this was the first time I had a genuine smile on my face. The crowd cheered. It was awesome. I got to see it at the early screening for Amazon Prime on Tuesday, and it was just a whole event. It was a blast, and it was a lot more fun than I was anticipating, because all up in this point, my number one movie of the year that I've been most anticipated for is Fantastic Four, and that's right around the corner. It is still my most anticipated. That movie is gonna slap. I'm so excited for that. But like I said, I walked out very surprised, very excited for this universe, and I'm just happy to have more comic book films going on in a whole other universe that I can invest into and fall in love with, just like I did with the MCU. But now I want to hear from you guys. Let me know down below in the comments how you felt about James Gunn's Superman. Did you love it? Did you hate it? And were you like me? Did you just walk out super feeling happy, full of joy? I want to hear from you guys. Definitely all your thoughts and opinions on this movie. Let me know down below in the comments. And again, like always, I appreciate you guys taking the time to check out this video. Don't forget that like button, subscribe to the channel on your way out. And I'll see you guys in the next video.